Puglia, Italy, Ferrari thought we would introduce the 2018 Portofino, the company's new entry-level model, of course, using a base expense of $214,533. Entry-level means something more important to different people, at a beachfront resort within the Adriatic Sea. That's about 471 miles southeast, since the European magpie flies, on the now trendy namesake fishing village of Portofino, Italy, for the Mediterranean Sea. This being winter, Ferrari executives figured the next windstorm would be much warmer and even drier farther south, which explains why we found themselves not in Portofino, playing with the Puglia region of Italy, which constitutes the boot heel in Italy's profile. Puglia's motto, roughly translated, I do hope you like olives. Unfortunately, it wasn't much warmer, plus it sure isn't any drier, but once we took the fashionable red recommendations for a cluster of Portofinos, the clouds parted plus the temperature warmed until we could drive using the retractable hardtop down, plus the heat on. That is a pretty essential factor of the Portofino which, come early July, replaces the Ferrari California T. This lucky change in the next windstorm suggests that despite Enzo Ferrari having died in 1988, he still runs Italy, and likely controls the climate. After all, Manchester International we flew into, Bari International, can be found on Enzo Ferrari Street, while Bari is often a 7-hour drive from Maranello. This had also been lucky for us, since the drive route for that Portofino would have been nearly unusable while it's raining. Not since the Portofino couldn't handle it, the traction control and windshield wipers work quite well, even so the roads there we were on, even dry, must be some on the slickest, most potholed pavement the land of olives provides. And since many from the roads were lined with sturdy, up-close rock walls, we needed to be especially careful, since Ferrari had already cancelled a Portofino that has been driven using a European journalist with an earlier wave of test drives. He reportedly tested the wall's sturdiness and was impressed. In one sense, this test-out route was advantageous, since we ended up to gauge the Portofino's ride on very rough roads. The ride was surprisingly good, even using the steering wheel-mounted Manettino switch dialed to sport as opposed to comfort. We got to evaluate the carbon ceramic brakes when dogs, buses, farmers on tractors, and street gangs clad in matching lycra skin suits riding bicycles suddenly appeared throughout the next corner. What we didn't get to check much was the Portofino's at or near the limit performance. The plethora of polished asphalt and potholed concrete did test the electronics, since most every time we'd arrive at the roundabout thus hitting the throttle, unwanted fat 20-inch bias, 245/35 front, 285/35 out back, would try to find grip, the trunk end from the car would slip just a little to one side, and also the traction control would intervene. Thankfully. Late from the drive we did find that which you thought became a deserted, very suitable straight to try Ferrari's reasonable claim of 0 to 62 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds, but whatever kind of launch we chose, we can easily barely accomplish it in less than 4 seconds. Incidentally, necessities such as electronic controls as listed around the Portofino's spec sheet, ESP, escape with F1 track, EDIF3, SCME with twin solenoids. We probably can have used couple of solenoids. And yes, twist the Manettino right to the appropriate and you can disable some of the electronic acronyms, but ensure you want to prior to do. With more torque as opposed to California T, and noticeably more horsepower, 38, with all the outgoing T rated at 553, the revolutionary Portofino at 591. We've no reason to doubt Ferrari's claim of a top speed of 198.8387882 miles per hour. Yes, a somewhat awkward number, caused by our overly detailed translation from kilometers to miles per hour, along with a 0 to 124 miles per hour use of, will spare you the .274238 conversion carry over, an exceptionally quick 10.8 seconds. But we only are able to prove it. This time, anyway. If all of this makes our drive sound miserable, it absolutely was far from it. The scenery was gorgeous, along with the Portofino was cheerful both chugging through villages at single-digit speeds, and, when we've got the chance, carving up corners. The electric power steering is much better but not quite there yet. In corners, there is certainly less body lean than found within the California T, but without somewhat track time, it's challenging to say the amount less. Top up or down, the chassis and the entire body did not flex, squeak, rattle, rock or roll on roads that might not be misplaced in Detroit or Newark, so that's saying something. The 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, a carryover in the California T, responds immediately when shifted up or down because of the two fixed-position paddles behind the modern steering wheel, but when you leave it in automatic mode, the transmission is frequently slow to downshift, likely because of the pursuit of improved fuel mileage, along with a teachable transmission algorithm which was learning that any of us weren't able to go everything fast, thus deducing that we had arrived in no hurry because of it to downshift. A suggestion: when passing tractors and tourist sightseeing in rented diesel Fiats, downshift manually. We asked the Portofino's powertrain engineer concerning the possible way ahead for manual transmissions, considering that the pre-T California, T standing for turbocharged, actually offered a manual, but he just shook his head sadly, as if we'd inquired in regards to the health of an aging but beloved dog or cat, just to learn it passed away and had been replaced by way of a robot. This also raises an interesting, and mildly puzzling factoid: the small amount of Californias sold with manual transmissions now command far more within the used exotics market compared to the Californias with manomatics. The Portofino's engine is mainly the California T's 3.9-liter, twin-turbo, flat-crankshaft V8, with all the extra 39 horses mostly caused by electronic tuning, a different exhaust containing a one-piece header, new pistons and connecting rods, and redesigned intake manifolds. Open the hood and behold a work of art. We're so fed up with seeing engines insured by massive pressed plastic burkas. That is certainly not the case here. The engine makes a peculiar, distinctive yowl at full throttle. The Portofino's exhaust system has a different electronically controlled bypass valve that moderates the sound depending within the situation, and for the Maranello switch position. In comfort, the valve opens to a moderate degree, says Ferrari, to manufacture a marked, recognizable sound that still will not out of place inside an urban context. In sport, the valve produces a sportier, more seductive sound on the lowest engine speeds all the way up for the red line. On the rough roads we tested the Portofino on, you'd think comfort will be the best option. Nevertheless, the ride in sport can be so good, even on really uneven pavement, that we simply left it because setting and forgot about this. So just want to be sporty and seductive. Still, Ferrari didn't manage to worry about its sound that much with its normally aspirated engines, because doing so didn't ought to. There's no question that turbos are not going away soon for high-performance exotics, but we're afraid once we talk about this Gran Turismo we appear to be Walt Kowalski and Gran Torino. Get off my lawn. Refer on the good old days, when an accelerating 458 Italia could peel skin using the downright erotic siren call of the company's 562-horse, 4.7-liter V8 at full song. It's like when Michael McDonald joined the Doobie Brothers. Yeah, he's good and all sorts of, but it really wasn't the Doobie Brothers anymore. Is that a dated enough reference? Should we speak about when lead singer Tony Williams replaced Cornell Gunter in the Platters in 1953? We thought not. Outside, Ferrari stylists haven't broken any new ground while using Portofino, but they've certainly created an incredibly handsome, slightly understated profile that features a nicer sense Ferrari family looks. The Portofino looks somewhat like a California T. How the designers took a second crack at, within the process, fixing the T's main issue, a bottom that stuck up as being a cat in heat. That was to produce room for the folded down hard top. Even so, the Portofino's complex top sits low enough to stop the need to get a raised deck. And even when folded, which takes 14 seconds, and today can be done while driving at speeds around 25 miles per hour, there's enough room inside the trunk within the top to cram in soft luggage sufficient for just a weekend. Well, a weekend on the water, anyway. The design cue which can be the most controversial could be the sculptured horizontal vent that starts behind the top wheels and leads to the doors. At the front with the vent is often a black plastic insert. From some angles all of it works, from others it looks just like a piece with the body fell off. You can't neglect it, especially while using big yellow Ferrari badge perched for the front fenders, right over the vent's largest separation. At least the vent is mildly functional, much like the pair of vents within the hood. Inside, it is one on the prettiest, most intuitive Ferrari interiors yet. Switchgear is properly placed and straightforward to use. Displays are packed tight but don't seem crowded. Attention to detail is impressive, so very far removed on the era when Ferrari just shrugged at criticism of how the inner looked, a lesser amount of whether or not you approved of the spot that the company squeeze heater fan control. Designers and engineers worked to lessen the Portofino's weight, successfully, the way it weighs 3,668 pounds, whilst the California T was 3,813 pounds. Along with the front seats are a good example of how they accomplished the duty. The seats frames are magnesium, and so they seem impossibly thin, however they are 18-way adjustable and quite comfortable. That thinness also makes for a bit more room for the rear seats, and Ferrari suggests 30% of buyers are expected to really use those seats. For what, we aren't sure, whether it is often a place to set groceries or kids. But unless several jockeys have to are able to the Kentucky Derby today, don't expect lots of repeat Uber customers. Bottom line, the Portofino is definitely an improvement on the California T. It replaces in every single way, and it also seems very comfortable to use role of introducing new buyers towards the prancing horse, and providing them using a fun, fast GT experience. While the performance is surely an improvement in the T, the Portofino is not a serious track day car. That could well be the 488 GTB's role. It's also tricky to overstate the Portofino's importance to Ferrari. Though the company is unwilling to provide actual numbers, the California T represented in close proximity to a third of Ferrari's output, and that is about 8,500 cars annually. Until the inevitable Ferrari SUV arrives, Portofino sales, along using a lot of red hats, Puma sneakers, and Scuderia Ferrari Ray-Bans, will need to fund many Ferrari's Ultra Niche limited edition models. The Portofino is nearly the task. It's ideally positioned because the company's entry-level car, and also its internal exit-level model, as potential customers become mold customers and move up on the Portofino along with other, costlier Ferraris. In the US, there's without a doubt Portofino sales might help make Italy great again. And there need to be a reason we're craving olives. 2018 Ferrari Portofino specifications on sale. June price $214,533. Base engine 3.9 liters stock 32 valve twin turbo V8 590 first horsepower at 7,500 revolutions per minute. 560 pounds-feet at 3,000 to 5,250 revolutions per minute. Transmission 7-speed dual-clutch automatic layout 2-door, 4-passenger, front engine, RWD convertible EPA mileage N, LXWXH 180.6 by 76.3 by 51.6 in wheelbase 105.1 in weight 3,668 pounds 0 to 60 miles per hour 3.4 seconds. As top speed 199 miles per hour.